Today is May 10th, 2048. You are listening to the news from the Global Information Network.
Los Angeles, a large explosion killed 76 people and injured 200 near a UCLA physics laboratory. The suicide bombing was carried out by the military wing of the super globalist organization Back to Nature. Meanwhile, supporters of the same extremist organization continue to lay siege to the headquarters of energy giant General Energetic. GE was the first company to introduce quasi-stationary thermonuclear synthesis, which has now become a source of cheap energy for the entire west coast of the USA. The energy revolution prompted a sudden collapse in oil prices, followed by economic crisis in oil-producing countries of Latin America. Tens of thousands of residents of Mexico and Venezuela have been attempting to cross America's southern border in a bid to escape poverty and hunger. The alarming situation along the southern border has become the dominant issue in the U.S. presidential election debate. Democratic presidential candidate John Morales has proposed absorbing Mexico into the Union as 10 new states. Republican candidate Harold Choi promises to install laser cannons and tear gas mines to prevent refugees from entering U.S. territory, as well as developing a project to deliver food and medicine to the value of $10,000 per family, with strict distribution control in order to prevent aid theft, which has now become a norm in such cases. Moving on to the situation in the Middle East. A spokesperson of the Iranian government has requested aid from the international community.
Our country continues to suffer from the consequences of the Sunni Shiite conflict. Unfortunately, we do not have the resources to maintain security of the no-go zone, where levels of radiation are still high. The police and military troops are unable to stop flows of refugees from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait, who were financially mined by the collapse in oil and gas prices. For their assistance in the cleanup efforts, we wish to express our gratitude to Japan, United States, China, and Israel. This is the news from the Global Information Network. In Pakistan, an agreement has finally been reached between the government and the Taliban movement, whose representatives finally agreed to a compromise. Jihadist activists retain the right to perform suicide explosions, but only in previously agreed unpopulated areas.
In Yemen, a U.S. drone involved in an anti-terrorism operation destroyed the headquarters of an Islamist terror organization. One of the dead was an ethnically Arab U.S. citizen, provoking an outrage in U.S. society. A bill is now being drafted, which will oblige the U.S. Department of Defense to pinpoint any U.S. citizens in by performing a targeted population census prior to bombing the area. The scandal around the theft of top-secret documents from the Israeli Defense Ministry has taken a new turn, with the arrest of the minister's personal secretary. Under questioning, the suspect admitted to being a member of a secret society. "We are guilty of it all." Before her arrest, the secretary informed the press that the documents, now confiscated from her possession by Secret Service, contain information about research into remote control over human consciousness. Her interview prompted debate around the world. In Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan, protesters are burning U.S. and Israeli flags and have attempted to storm the embassies of those countries. Europe has also seen responses to the scandal in Israel. "They have been controlling us for a long time. They are making zombies out of us. Our leaders have become no more than puppets in the hands of the Jews."
This is deliberate Zionist provocation.
At the same time, European political and public figures have expressed the hope that Israel will share the results of their research.
Of course, this discovery could solve many problems. It could even mean salvation for the whole planet. We could put an end to terrorism and authoritarian regimes. We would eliminate the primitive democracies of fools and parasites and establish a democracy of the intellect. But I'm afraid that Israel will not hand over the result of their research. They are still unable to forgive our behavior at the beginning of the 20th century, when Israel was betrayed by almost the entire world.
In Tel Aviv, an exhibition has opened to celebrate 20 years since the signing of the Arab-Israeli Peace and Cooperation Agreement, with the countries of the Arab-Israeli Alliance demonstrating their achievements. A spokesman of the Kingdom of Jordan and Palestine commented on the impressive successes of these past 2 decades.
The funds which we once thoughtlessly spent on confrontation and preparation for war, we have for 20 years invested in science, medicine, and education. Our economy is still growing, while industry and agriculture flourish. We can now look ahead with hope for an even better future.
The exhibition press secretary took us on a tour of the exhibits.
We are delighted that peace has come to the Middle East and the spirit of cooperation and goodwill has won out. A major contribution to good neighborly relations was made by our scientific achievements, including the localized gravity control system, which makes it possible literally to expedite into the heavens any enemy wherever they may be hiding.
On a visit to the exhibition, the Israeli Minister of Science answered journalists' questions about the controversial theft of secret defense ministry documents.
I state on the record that we have no plans to use our knowledge for military purposes in the foreseeable future. However, even if consciousness control were genuinely possible, we would not share that technology with anyone. This is the lesson we have learned from our own history. After all, nobody knows whose hands this information could fall into.
In Western Siberia, another series of CSTO military exercises has come to an end. The Joint Forces commander, General Hu Tsao, reported that the maneuvers were highly successful and made the following statement to the journalists.
Under the executive brief, a fictional enemy attacks the Russo-Chinese joint zone of interest, Siberia and the far east of Russia, where there are tens of millions of Chinese citizens and millions of Russians. The exercises were exceptionally successful. I would especially like to note the high level of military preparedness of the Russian soldiers and officers who demonstrated outstanding morale and patriotism. Despite the difficulties across the country caused by the energy crisis, a lack of modern weapons, and the mass brain drain of academics and qualified engineers to the West.
Mass protests are continuing in Europe with the support of unions, radical political parties, and farming associations.
The welfare that people get is laughable. With a monthly stipend of just 5,000 euros that they dare to call compensation, you couldn't even buy a new car.
There's no market for what we grow. People buy meat grown from animal stem cells.
Protesters have vandalized several McDonald's and steakhouse restaurants. Many European capitals have seen marches, with protesters carrying identical slogans in different languages. Proletarians of the world unite against our common enemy, so-called progress. Down with irresponsible scientists and their dangerous discoveries.
Tension is growing against a background of endless ethnic conflicts across Europe. Cities have been divided into fortress-like districts, populated either by the indigenous population or the descendants of immigrants from Asia and Africa. Farhal Nasono has lived here for 10 years. His family moved to Europe from Africa in 2012.
Our fathers and grandfathers lived here. They worked to build Europe's prosperity with their own hands. But the time of slavery is over, and now it is time to accept that the world belongs to us all, and we all deserve a share in this world.
In a small enclave, the family of Peter Anders maintains the old ways.
Where did they come from, these descendants of immigrants? Who invited them? Who needs them here? We will not let them take our land.
The situation is exacerbated by the fact that radical extremist groups from white districts are releasing anti-fertility agents into the air and water of immigrant districts, claiming to protect Europe's demographic balance from uncontrolled growth of immigrant communities. We pay taxes, and they get welfare at our expense, and they're breeding like rabbits.
European medicine has advanced so much that people can expect to live to 200, but we get to live for just 70 years. So each European lives 3 of our lifetimes. And if our women become infertile, then we will die out altogether. There should be equal access to medicine. It should be fair, or no one should get any medicine at all.
The Council of Europe has seen furious debates on the issue.
Full efforts.
This immense world we inhabit is home to many ethnicities. We must be tolerant. The time has come for all peoples and religions to merge. We should all do well to follow the rule of praying in church one week and in a mosque the next.
Many Europeans, however, do not share this view.
The message that he was
We must build separate districts for each ethnic group, with a single municipality responsible for communal services.
When it comes time for
We are against a segregated Europe. Let them build their own states in their own historic homeland. Europe is unique and has a duty to preserve its culture and its historical appearance.
Europe's political elite are now actively discussing a proposal to create ethnographic reserves where native people can preserve their traditions. For example, the Dutch could continue to wear wooden clogs and operate windmills. The Italian reserve would include an authentic Venetian carnival that would never be interrupted by the Muslim call to prayer. There may now be an original solution to the deadlocked demographic crisis. A new series of sexoids has been released by Kama Sutra Limited, causing widespread excitement. These new robots can chatter sweetly, ask how your day went, and even laugh, cry, sing, and express joy. They are fitted with warm, soft skin and silky hair. On the eve of the launch, it became known that film star Audrey withdrew her lawsuit against Kama Sutra Limited. The star had been dissatisfied about the use of her images in several sexoid models and demanded the appropriate compensation. I decided to withdraw my lawsuit when I understood that my popularity now knows no bounds. On any given evening, my face will be used by millions of men across the world, and I will be giving each one of them pleasure and joy. I give my permission for my image to be used, but only for poor countries. But, my dear gentlemen, please do not be too rough with me, and I will be proud to be making my own modest contribution to peace and universal happiness.
Ronnie Gomez, the owner of Kama Sutra Limited, spoke at the official presentation of the 5th generation range of sexoid robots. We give people happiness. Is it not better to make love, not war? Kama Sutra Limited means unlimited happiness, which could even correct the demographic situation. Progress in science will guarantee us a wonderful life, and we intend to enjoy it, creating ever new ways to satisfy our desires. Onward, onward to the victory of hedonism.
The company has also seen some scandal. A group of ultra-conservatives and religious fundamentalists joined riots near the mall, where new sexoid models are on display.
Your dolls are an outrage. This is degeneracy. This goes against all human morals.
Hatred, conflict and war, terrorism and catastrophes threaten the very existence of human civilization.
We think we have found a new ray of hope. An international team of researchers has managed to create a supercomputer after many years of intense effort. The computer, nicknamed Angel, is capable of analyzing colossal volumes of information and is capable of both reconstructing the past and predicting the future. The first public test took place today, with millions awaiting Angel's responses to a series of questions. Are you ready to talk to us?
I'm ready. I'm aware. I know myself and I know all about you.
Can you help us solve the problems that humanity now faces?
I can, but I may not wish to.